Hello, my name is Jiles Smith, and welcome to our community. Explain more about Victory Outreach and how is it?
What a great program. I think you've been involved with the Victory Outreach for over 8 years. They specialize in what the world doesn't want to deal with. Gang members, heroin addicts, homeless, prostitutes. It's a one-year program. They bring them in, they teach them about their spiritual walk, their faith, about Christ, about God, about getting back to work. So they transform them. They take them from who they were to who they're going to be.
Basically, the people who Jesus was hanging around with, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, there's a story of the prostitute that the people were getting ready to stone her and ask him, what should we do? He says, those of no sin can cast the first stone, and nobody did. So that was a story about a prostitute. Well, I spent a lot of years, going in and teaching in the prisons, and it's one of the sad things I see is when I go in, I see the moms, I see the parents, I see the kids. Yeah, this is what they do, Hey, what are we going to do on Sunday? Hey, we're going to go see our daddy. Where's your daddy? He's in prison. And what they do is they focus on their well-being. They bring them money for the books and supplies, and meanwhile, then they go home. They have to focus on, well, how do we live? Either the wife has to find a job and find babysitters for the kids, or they have to go to the government for help, or they go to their parents for help. It's just a snowball. How are we going to eat? Where we're going to hang out at?
Right.
Yeah. So
it seems as if a lot of people who are in prison, that family, that cycle is there.
Yeah, it's like generations. It's like generations of firemen and policemen. You got generations of criminals. This is the life they know. It's well, and for these inmates, they got roof for the head, they got food for the stomach, they got clothes for the back, and they don't have to worry about a paycheck. So they actually got a little bit easier than the family who's at home, having to worry about the electric bill, the phone bill, the water bill, where we're going to eat. So they actually got it easy, which is sad.
What effect does this have on the prisoner itself? When you're in there and you're trying to get your life together, your relationship with God, is it draining on you? Is it?
Well, it depends if you're at the end of the rope. We know the son's a prodigal son. He had to finally be sloppy the pigs before he realized he had it better at home. A lot of these people don't know in their cycle, if it's the first time, second time, how bad they have it. A lot of them hang out with each other. A gang member hangs out with a gang member, so they think this is normal. They don't know it's abnormal, so they all hang out with each other. Until you remove them from that environment and show them a different environment, they don't know that they've been doing things that are wrong. So they think it's normal.
So what do you think, when it comes to prisoners coming back into the system, what do you think is harder for them? Rehabilitation or the re-entry back into society? And how does religion take a part of that?
I think it's re-entry into society. A lot of times what happens is when they leave prison, they go back to the same friends, same environment, same streets, and nothing's changed. And so we know insanity is do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So I think that would probably be the most difficult. But what we do is we encourage them, once they do leave prison, is to find a local church that's Bible-based and get involved with a different crowd, different people, different people with different mindsets, and to get in their faith. And that usually will help them alter that path that they've been on. So it'll change generations of misdoings. So that's what we encourage them, is when they get out of prison, is to find a different crowd to be with, and we always encourage them to find a good Christian crowd to hang with.
Change that environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know, going back to Victory Outreach, I know you guys are doing great work helping people who are in that system. And a lot of it, I won't say to no fault of their own, but I think as a society ourselves, we had something to do with it. We didn't help that young person who was trying to do right. We kind of discouraged them or put some hurdles in the way. We didn't intentionally do it, but it's part of our responsibility to help fix it.
Yeah.
And I will say, at least in my opinion, I'm going to ask the question, that when a person is incarcerated, it costs about $69,000 a year in California to keep them in prison. But it costs less than $20,000 to put them in college. So I think it's a waste of resources.
Absolutely.
But bringing them out and getting them back into the system, eliminating them or reducing the likelihood of them having a recidivism issue, basically going back for something small, making it too comfortable in prison that I have nothing else to do, so let me go back. Is that some of the passion you see when you're dealing with them and you're talking to the families?
I apologize. Is there a question there?
Yeah, that was a speech first.
Okay, okay. The speech is great, but what was the question?
What are some of the other things that Victory Outreach is doing in our community?
Well, what they're doing with the people that they bring into their facilities is they first are focused on getting their GED. That's education. Just to get their GED is huge.
Right.
So they bring some volunteers from outside from the schools to come out and work with that. They teach them work ethics and habits. Where a job is important, and how you conduct yourself, and how you carry yourself, and how you talk to people. Obviously, they focus on their faith, again, spiritually sound, code of conduct. How to bring back integrity. Because a lot of these people never had integrity. They didn't have. They've been lying and cheating and stealing, and so they think it's gone. Well, here they have a chance to start over again, a brand new life, with integrity, with honor, and that's what they're working with.
Some of the key tools that need to be successful.
Absolutely.
They're providing those
Absolutely.
tools.
And as I said, and they work with the individuals that the society does not want to work with.
Yes.
Who wants to work with a full-blown gang member because we're scared because we don't trust them no more?
Right.
Who wants to work with a prostitute who's giving their lives up, and nobody wants to work with those people. Don't know how to work with those people.
Right.
But here you got an organization that knows how to work with these people, and they have a great success rating. So to your point was, using the funds in a better means, I think it'd be absolutely a good idea.
We talk about incarceration a lot, but how does incarceration really affect the family, the grandchildren? How does it affect the child, the mother, the father, the uncles, aunts? How does it affect them?
What it is, it's a blemish, it's a scar. Especially depends on the crime itself, but they've been judged, they've been condemned, and now they have a record. So my daddy has a record or has this, and that's just a stigma that they have to walk with and live with. They don't know that it can go away, through Christ and forgiveness and repentance. So they walk, that will always be there, and so the kids obviously, and some of these kids, they idolize their dads who are in prison.
Right.
They glorify this now. We know shooting and drive-bys and violence, and we watch it on TV, and we just we watch it. The chase on the freeway.
TV,
and it's glorified nowadays. And so now the kids see the daddy, he's the hero, he's the macho gang member who murdered somebody, and they think that's okay. And that's the mindset they have. That's all they know. Because mom and dad is a big influence.
Right.
Big influence in your lives. And so, we're talking about ourselves on the side. We're talking about the foster system. There's, you got working with some people where dad's not in the picture. Mom was a full-blown drug addict. So the kid is thrown to the foster system, and tossed a few homes here and there, and they don't have that love and they don't have that guidance as a real father. So the foster parents, and I bless them for what they do, what they try to do.
Right.
There's so much they can do as a true parent, for guidance. So, so what do you do when you walk through your life and you have no, a dad who didn't love you and a mom who was a drug addict, and what do you know?
Right.
And that's tough.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Very rough.
Yeah.
I know in our youth football league, we had a young man who said once, we were driving past a prison, and he says, "That's where my father stays." And he wasn't embarrassed about it. He wasn't bragging about it, but it was a fact of reality.
Yeah.
And those choices affect everybody in the community. And we tend to be standoffish with it as a society, I believe. But it would seem to me that it costs us something. It's not just them. It's really us, because it costs you money in taxes to incarcerate people or to rehabilitate them. It costs you theft and damage and pain and hurt. Drunk drivers, etc. All that stuff costs society.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of it. But here's how. There's a story in the book of Ezekiel talking about watchmen. And back in the days, they used to, build a city on a hill,
Mm-hmm.
and they would fortify it, a fortress, and they would live inside the fortress.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have the agriculture and all the livestock outside the fort. And you had people in the corners called the watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go out there, you do your daily chores and stuff like that, and if they saw danger coming, they would blow the horn.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the horn blew, you came inside, you closed the gate, and you're protected.
Mm-hmm.
But if you heard the horn, didn't come in, something happened to you, that was on you.
Yeah.
But the watchmen, though, if they saw danger but didn't blow the horn, any danger came, and people died,
Right.
well, they're dead, but also the responsibility was on the watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
We as a society, we see the danger,
Right.
but nobody's blowing the horn. What are we doing about it?
That's powerful.
We want to sit down and watch it and judge and condemn it, but what are we actually doing in our community to change these things?
Well, it's all of our responsibility, like
Yes,
you
it
just
is.
pointed out. Mr. Mack, how do we break the cycle? This is so cyclical process of incarceration, rehabilitation, incarceration, children, parents. How do we break the cycle?
Start early. Start earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We have 12-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids. We just had one here local where she wanted to stage a break-in to murder the mom.
Mm.
I got a young woman who's taking pictures of herself and going on the internet, and it's just we need to start earlier with education. Unfortunately, divorce rate is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
The dad's looking for a girlfriend, and the mom's looking for a boyfriend, and they're throwing the Xbox in front of the kid, and here, go online, go on the internet, and not monitoring nothing.
Right.
So we need to go back to parenting 101, first of
Mhm.
all, and identify broken homes, and we need to become parents and help
Right.
and guide them. I believe the school system is a good place to start with. If you go back years when you had God in the school system and had those standards,
Mm-hmm.
we had a different society. But we moved God, and we so nobody, they're not getting the parenting. They're not getting that attention they need, and so we got to find a place to educate those broken homes.
Well, your program is also now in the public schools, correct?
Yes, we are.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
As I said, I've been watching. I've been doing work in the men's prison ministries and Victory Outreach, and I've been seeing the result of sin,
Mm-hmm.
of gangs and violence and stuff like that, and seen some great work. But I've been noticing that as I speak with them, where it's been starts in their teens usually,
Mm-hmm.
and then it starts with the broken homes. And so what I've been working with is a community to try to solve this problem. And so I've got several churches together and several community leaders together and some entertainers together. And so we want to focus on the high school age. It's a pivotal year in these kids' lives, 14, 15, 16, 17. And so what we're trying to do is get God back into the public school systems as a viable option. We have MTV and VH1 and we have Call of Duty games out there. And we're wondering what's going on. Well, we need to put God back into as a viable option. Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and so we're going to the public schools, talking about Christ as a whole. We're working with the Christian clubs right now of all the different schools, because to me they're the found sheep. So they're trying to what we kind of did was God got removed from the public schools. So what we did, we created Christian schools.
Right.
So we took the kids from public schools and put them in Christian clubs,
Right.
schools. And so, in essence, what's happened is those good influences have been removed from the public schools.
Right.
Yeah, then we took the good kids and we moved them from the schools because we're scared of schools now,
Right.
and we homeschool them
Right.
to keep them safe.
Right.
Well, what's left in the schools?
Right.
And then Satan does his work in the public school systems.
Right.
Well, there's some clubs still trying. So we have Christian clubs trying to, make a stand in the schools. So we're reinforcing the public schools right now. The Christian clubs in the public schools, to tell them they're right,
Mm-hmm.
to bring reinforcement to them. And then our goal is to find a lost sheep within the schools
Mm-hmm.
and bring them to the Christian clubs so they can, have a safe place to fellowship. And also talking to the goats, the people who have rejected, and let them know that your life doesn't have to be this way. There's a viable option. So we have a tour we're doing, it's called the Revival Tour, to bring life back to our public schools. And we have beatboxers and hip-hop dancers and gospel singers, and we're going to go to the public schools and we're going to become relevant and current and entertain them, and then as they come forward, we'll talk about Christ to them.
Pastor Randy Ponce of New Creation Ministries of the High Desert. He is an outstanding individual. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at one of our record expungement fairs, and he is just inspiring me. He's got a great story, and he is passionate about what we're doing, taking care of people. And our subject matter today, Pastor, is talking about incarceration and how that integration back to the community and how important it is to break that cycle. So with that, let's talk about your history. What kind of history you have in the criminal justice system?
Well, first of all, thank you, Jiles, for giving me the opportunity to be here this morning. And I want to start out with that it's nothing but the grace of God that I'm alive and still walking around. By all rights, I should be dead or incarcerated for the rest of my life, which several of my friends are. And started, of course, as you know, when you have no one at the house to really intervene, a male role model, when you have, and it's nothing against my dad, but the matter of the fact is when he was out there chasing the buck, I started going out to the streets with an older brother. And I started about 11 years old. And you know, started smoking weed, started drinking, started dropping pills already. One thing leads to another to another. When I was 12, I picked up an ADW and started from that point, you know, and in and out of institutions till I was 23 years old. And nothing that I'm proud of, but you become that product of the environment when there is no supervision in the home, when there is no godly influence, when there's nothing to really, and don't get me wrong, I was brought up in religion. I was forced to go to church, you know, as a child. You know, but I made my first communion and went through the process, but it's not in a religion, it's in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's not being religious. Religious people turn me off, they turn Jesus off. And so as I started getting a little older and recognizing things going on in my life, the no real parental involvement, you run astray. And I've told people, look, if you don't give that child, if you don't teach and train up your child like the scripture says in the way they should go, when they get old, they won't depart. But the key is teaching and training physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. It's all combined. It's all something that it's not, it's really tough because people don't just grow up, especially those of us that have been around. A lot of times is that the drugs, the alcohol, the dysfunctional families. And my dad was a very hardworking man. Thank God he gave me good work ethic, but he was a functioning alcoholic. And in those things and in seeing that and in growing up dysfunctional and not having my older brothers beginning to lead me the wrong way. And one thing leads to another to another. By the time I was 16, I was mainlining heroin. By the time I was 18, I was sitting in Soledad State Prison. I'm not proud of it. Any man can walk a yard. It takes a real man to stand up and say, you know what? I'm going to serve God. I'm going to be there for my family. We have to break the cycle. Right. There's a vicious cycle that comes around in our society. And I don't care if you're, again, African-American, Hispanic, or white, because I'm seeing it. My present job is I actually a full-time pastor plus full-time worker. I work for the AB 109 program through the state of California, if you're familiar with it. The AB 109, I'm a workforce development specialist. I'm a workforce development specialist that actually I help people that are just getting out of incarceration reintegrate back into society. And one of the things that I teach them is you don't have to allow your past to dictate your future. Right. And the key in that is going to be truly, though, it's a spiritual thing, number one. And you have to have, it's like Maslow's theory. You've got to have your food, your shelter, your clothing. You have to have the basics. Our church feeds 40 to 50 people a week, and we're a very small church, renting a couple of suites on Walnut and 3rd Street in Hesperia. And you know, the thing of it is you do what you can. I tell my people, you do the very best you can with what you have, where you're at that particular time in your life. And I believe that's all that God calls us to do, is our best. But I'm always challenging our people. Are you really doing your best? Only you know.
Right.
And see, it has not been an easy road. Right. You know, I have had so many different tragedies in my life, you know, with daughter, with family, with ministry. But you don't let it stop you. Oh, my old dad man used to tell me, he was not a religious man, not a godly man, but he would tell me, hey son, a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. What do you want to be? I want to be a winner, Pops. Well, then don't give up. I teach our people that get out in the probation office in Victorville, I say, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep knocking on those doors. What I will teach you will give you an edge. I will give you everything that's necessary to find and obtain employment. Mm-hmm. But it's up to you to go out and get it. Mm-hmm. And then, no. You got to go out. Just like you hustle for that dope, you got to go out and hustle for the job and do the positive things. Right. You've got to write and target that resume. You've got to develop the dressing for success. Right. You've got to do the things, how to handle a felony question. And I've had a very good measure of success up here. In the last 6 months, we've got 31 people employed by the grace of God. Yeah. And you know, the thing of it is it going back as a young person, as a kid, sitting in juvenile hall for the first time. I sat in that cell, and the door shut, slammed shut. Mm-hmm. And I began to count the bricks. And I began to think in my head, why am I even here? And you know, I had a counselor in there, and she looked at me and says, you're not dumb. Do something with your life. But at that time, I was stuck on stupid. I'm writing a book called Stuck on Stupid. And Lord willing, I'll get some money to publish it one day. But I love to put it in juvenile halls and placements. Boys' homes, girls' homes, detention places. Because I can relate. I understand what it's about to not have and to have. Right. And it's just like the Apostle Paul said, I've learned how to abound and I've learned how to live with nothing. But the key is contentment. I was working for Tri-City Mental Health Centers in Pomona as a case manager, mental health worker about, in 2000 to 2005. And on my caseload, I had kids that were from 6 to 19 or 17, something like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that really struck me funny is I saw this name of this certain young third grader who was acting out, getting in trouble, just off the chain. Mm-hmm. And I remembered the name. And as I met him for the first time, I had done prison time with his dad. Mm. His dad recently had overdosed when he got out. And it was a heartbreaker. You know, and generational, and that kid was acting out, and he had no sense of value and no sense of worth. And there are so many. When I worked prison ministry in the 90s at the Youth Authority in Chino, most of these young men, ages 18 to 25, I was there. I was at Fred C. Nellis. I was at SRCC. I was a program coordinator of Match 2 Prisoner Outreach, which was a volunteer mentoring program. Had over 100 volunteers going in and visiting children and young men that were incarcerated. I had young men that hadn't seen the inside of a visiting room in 6 years. And because their family cut them off, or their parents were incarcerated or dead. And so it is that vicious cycle. And it's a cycle that you see, and it was all colors, all walks of life. And it's a thing where I see it in even the frustration at work at the Victorville Probation Office. Out of 10 or 12 in that class, I know that only 1 or 2 will make it. Yeah. And that's the statistics, and that's the reality of it. But the community must get involved. Right. You know, you've heard Edmund Burke's old saying, you know, that statesman in the 1700s, evil prevails when good men do nothing. Exactly. And there are too many good men doing nothing. And of course, I understand we're busy, we're hard at work, but one thing I used to teach, even teaching parents when I was working as a case manager, I would tell them, look, I know you're tired, but you go home and don't just sit down. And I would tell them in Spanish, because I'm bilingual. Beautiful. And I would tell some of these parents, I know you're tired. You just want to sit down, have your beer, watch TV. Now put that beer down, turn off that TV, and go spend some time with that child of yours. Because if you don't spend time with that child, he's going to spend time with somebody else, and 99% of the time it's a bad influence. And that's why I wound up where I was. I was financially okay. My dad made good money. He's first one of the first Spanish-speaking real estate brokers in the 60s. But he was out there chasing the almighty buck. And I'm very thankful because he did get me about $30,000 worth of lawyers. Otherwise, I'd be sitting and doing all day. Right. And I'm thankful for that. But I do know this: it's more than money. It's quality time. Right. I've quit corporate jobs to be with my children. Right. I've quit corporate America because I said within myself, and this is what I made myself a promise inside, right, that if I ever had children, I was going to be responsible and be there. See, anyone can father a child, but not everybody can be a father. Right. Not everybody can be a father. And the absenteeism of, I don't care if it's mom or dad, right, it's such a devastating effect on a child. And they feel, because a child from 11, 12, they start breaking that puberty, and that's when they need the guidance. Right. That's when they need mom and dad the most. A lot of our parents think, oh, now they're older, now I can go relax. No, get involved. I was the co-chair of grad night committee on my daughter's schools. I knew the principal. I'd go walk into those schools all the time and drop by and get to know the parent, get to know the teachers, get involved with your child. And it's sad because so many that are incarcerated don't. But I do want to say one thing. If you have been absent, it's never too late. It's not too late. I understand that we have guilt, we have all kinds of things. Make amends, start over. It's a beautiful thing about the Lord. You can come to Him and ask for forgiveness, but you also have to mend those relationships. And begin, if you weren't there, begin to make amends. Begin to make time for that child. I don't care if they're 25 years old. You can start over. And you can change if you want to. It's all on an individual basis. God will help us all the way through. He knows that we're not perfect. Believe you me, I've made more mistakes than a whole lot of people. But through His grace, His love, and His mercy, He's turned me around, and He can do the same for you. I have great relationships with my children. You did something right, but I brag on God and my children that when our 25th wedding anniversary, my girls got their money together and sent Mom and I to a 8-day all expense paid Mexican Riviera cruise. See, you did your job.